Calvino Noir is a 2D stealth game developed and published by Calvino Noir Limited and is now available on Steam. The game is very reminiscent of many classic noir crime movies of the 30s and 40s, and there are many references to them. The main story is pretty simple and straightforward in the beginning. You're playing as a detective, as a private detective, and he has a case. He has to help a mole steal some documents, but after he gets nailed for what he has done, he has to take back revenge. He has to find a way to make things right, to save the city from a really horrible revolution that's almost going to happen. And it may sound convoluted, it may sound cliched, but it works for the game. It's not all that complex, but it's a fun story. If you love the genre, there is plenty of references to other movies or games, as well as really interesting concepts. I also really like the dialogue. It's very noirish. It reminded me of movies like Casablanca, The Maltese Falcon, and many other classics. So I'm repeating myself, I know. If you like noir movies, you will enjoy the story of this game, and it's a very strong story, even though pretty straightforward. The game looks very good. It adopts an art style very similar to the one used in Limbo, which is greyish background and black people in the foreground. Does it work? Absolutely, for this type of game especially. The art style is very good. It reminds me of a really bygone era. You can see all these different architectures, all the level designs. This level design is very good, by the way. You can go around the levels, they're pretty big, there are different secrets, that I will talk about them later. And graphically it looks very good, it performs very well, 60 FPS constantly. There is a good variety in the levels, even though some areas do look the same in some moments. But other than that, there is good variety in all of the 7 chapters of the game. And yeah, good graphics. The game is a point-and-click stealth game, which means that you only use your mouse. Otherwise you can use a controller, but the controls aren't all that great, so I recommend sticking with the keyboard and mouse if possible. What you basically do is you click around to move a target to a certain area. You can choose to make him either walk or run. You can choose to use or don't use a flashlight to highlight even hidden objects. Or you can swap characters. You have a total of 3 characters in the game, it depends on the area in which you're playing. You may have 1 character, 2 characters, or 3 characters, and each one of them has a different ability. One can lockpick doors, the other can beat up guards, and the other can use machinery and other objects. It's very interesting concept. However, sorry. However, the game is very linear. Even though there are multiple levels that you can access, even though the areas are really big, it doesn't really work. However, even though the areas are big, the game is pretty linear. There isn't really a different way that you can do multiple things. You can either choose to knock out a guard or not, but it doesn't change the conclusion of the game, and it doesn't change pretty much anything. So I actually recommend going around, beating up guards if you can, sneaking around them, killing them, stunning them, whatever. They go down, you have a less guard to worry about. Other than that, it's a linear game, unfortunately. I was expecting there to be multiple paths to go to an objective, but I was almost bored after the first half of the game because it feels kind of redundant. While it is a good gameplay, there is a lot of possibilities with it. It does fall short in multiple points. It's not bad, but it can get really repetitive and it makes this experience more boring than enjoyable. There isn't a real challenge to the game. It's more of a do something, see if it works, otherwise repeat. It's a rinse and repeat game, unfortunately, because if you had that, as I've already said, multiple paths or multiple ways to do something, there will be more replayability. Other than that, there's no real reason to keep doing those things, because while you're doing a mission and you have a guard in front of you, you wait for the guard, you go around, you knock him down, then you move onward, then you can make other characters move onward, then one guy uses a machinery, the other guy goes picking up a key, and that's it. It's not a challenging game. It's more frustrating other times than not, because the AI is really weird. If you start sneaking up to a guard, sometimes, not always, but sometimes there's this bug, I think, where a guard actually notices you, so you have to sprint in the last 1 or 2 meters so that you are faster than his gun, which is very weird. And yeah, it's not hard. There isn't a difficulty settings. You go down with 1 hit of a pistol. Yeah, not hard. The music is good. I love jazz music. One of my favorite soundtracks of all time is the one in Gunpoint. I love Gunpoint. But here it's good music. It's very reminiscent of other noir movies, but it's not as iconic as I hoped it would be, or as memorable. While you're playing, yes, it's in the background, sometimes there is a band that's playing, but other than that, it's not very memorable. Then you have also the sound effects, which are really good, and the voice acting, which is a really strong point of the game. I love the voice acting in here. It's just like watching one of those cheesy late 40s noir movies, and I love that. I love these kind of things. If you're not a fan of that type of movies, you won't enjoy this game. You just won't. You won't.
The band sleepwalks through a repertoire of jazz standards. If one of them fell dead under the spotlight, the audience of drunken insomniacs wouldn't notice.
Last but not least is the replayability, and there's no reason to come back to this game. You have multiple achievements on Steam, but in the 7 levels that you explore, which are relatively long, about 20 to 30 minutes each the first time you play it, there is no real reason why you should go on in it. It's repetitive, it's pretty straightforward, there aren't that many ways to complete an objective, and that's really unfortunate. But other than that, you can also upgrade your characters, but the reason that you don't really notice them being upgraded in the game. You can find multiple coins, then you have to use your flashlight to find them, and those coins can be used to get more upgrade points, but it's just not worth it, and I don't think I will ever play this game again in my life. Overall, Calvino Noir is a good game, even though it is very repetitive, even though it's not really all that challenging but frustrating in some parts, even though the voice acting is actually very good and the story is interesting but simple. I can recommend this game only to people that love noir movies or the noir genre. Otherwise you would find this experience worthless, not enjoyable, boring, and I can see that for many players. So if you like noir movies, noir games, everything noir, play this game, you will like it. Otherwise, I don't recommend it.